Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Evil EWOK podcast. We are back for our pregame of the Bad Batch episode Quattro. We're here with Kat, Zach, and Alex, the gang. How are you guys doing on
we
this
are on
very
Band's back
late
together.
night?
Look at us.
You are
When was the last
fantabulous.
time all three of us were up this late? I feel like we're reliving our hooligan days. I think it must have been like this time last year that we last did like one of these, all three of us, 11 p.m. streams.
Yeah, our hooligan days were also interesting because we had a lot of guests on. So we were like at 11 o'clock, we were having like random guests.
Oh my god!
And it was like, how did any of them ever agree to do that? You know, like now realizing that most of them were probably older than us at the time, and now we're slowly getting older.
We
We're
realized
kind of realizing, oh, well,
that's a big ass.
if it were me, I wouldn't have came on that Evil Ewok podcast that time for sure.
Bless their hearts.
Yeah.
I was about to say, it says there's a live, but nothing was happening, then you appeared.
Power of drugs, Alice. Power of drugs. That's all we'll say.
We were actually just talking about doing a cocaine stream.
Yeah. We were busy
what was
doing
that
lines.
sound you just made?
That was like,
You see what I mean? Cat's already like 10 lines deep. That's just not happening.
I'm not helping my case, our case. That was going to be my don't blow our cover sound, but clearly.
Is that what that was?
I think that blew our cover more than anything.
Yeah, that sound could only come from someone who is like 10 lines deep.
It shows subscribers now?
It does. It's linked to my my lights. Whenever I get a new subscriber or super chat, my little light goes off, and so this light is synced with my chat to show when we get new subscribers.
Dude. Future is now.
I didn't set it up. Tom did.
Oh yeah, speaking of Tom, we got to show the people. So Kat and Tom came over for the Super Bowl, everybody. And I finally met Grandma Tom. There we are.
It's Grandma Pumpkin in person.
Notice who's not there.
No, I'm one with the Force. Remember?
Yeah.
You know how I'm just a black screen. Everyone already knows that.
Oh my god!
So you PNG'd me out. Understandably, I get it. I mean, to be fair, it was a Sunday. We had work the next day.
True.
3 hours north. I've been up there 3 times. You guys have been down here none.
Well, who's counting?
Whoa! All right, shots fired.
The person that just listed all 3.
Hey, Kat can't even drive. What do you want, man?
Kat can't
What do you want? Yeah.
That's true. I can't say anything.
Zach, of all people, is allowed to say that because he has chauffeured me before, so he has rights. He is allowed. He's not wrong, though. No, he's not wrong.
You'll get over it, Kat. You're in California.
Not that I can't. I just
it's like pulling a Band-Aid off, you know?
Yeah.
Just instead of pulling a Band-Aid, just put your foot on the gas pedal.
I will tell you, Kat, you did choose the one city that's like one of the hardest places to drive.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Having already a sufficient fear of driving and then moving here. I definitely have to try it out more, though. Every time I do it, I realize I'm being a chicken and that it's not so bad, but I always need assistance. I've not yet driven around here by myself, which I sound like a child who just got their driver's license, but I'm working on it. We're working on it.
Just go right for downtown LA.
What's that infamous like freeway that has like 50 different merges?
Oh yeah, just go right, do that.
Yeah. Trial by fire.
Have you ever seen the SNL skit, The Californians, where literally the entire skit is just making fun of how everyone knows every street and every turn everywhere? Because everyone drives here, and just take the 5 onto the 163, and we take the 163, take Pine Street, and then Pine Street onto Lupine, and then take Lupine all the way up back to the 5 through the 16, and they're just like saying that, and they're like, "Oh, for sure, thanks, dude."
Right? No, that's so true.
Because there's no public transit. How are you gonna have no public transit? You know what it is?
I think we're working on it.
It's the lobbying of the car.
It just sucks.
Yeah, I wouldn't Wouldn't recommend.
No, two. It's just like a bunch of buses that maybe show up at some point.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I've never tested my luck. So I don't know.
So we've got episode 4 tonight. I was
Yeah.
not here last week. I haven't really talked about. We haven't talked about it really, have we?
No, other than
Yeah.
our exchanges in the
Altogether.
group chat. So, Zach, yes, I think we do need to talk about it because Alex and I, unless Alex, you were filtering yourself and keeping it family friendly since you knew I was going to be posting on my channel too. But unless Alex toned himself down, I think you're on your own here, Zach. Unless Alex's true thoughts have come to light throughout the last week. But
Yeah.
After doing this for so long, I kind of, go in anytime we're watching something, I always keep in my head, how is my opinion going to change later so I don't say something that I'm going to regret later. I mean, everything still holds true for me. I'm curious what Zach
yeah.
thinks. I mean, I know he wasn't too happy about it, but I want to get the details.
Okay, so like I don't think it was bad. I just don't. I wasn't very excited by anything that happened. I don't know. I felt like they thought that a lot of what was revealed would be more impactful, and I don't know. Like Palpatine showed up and is like, "Oh, we're probably doing some cloning shit for Palpatine," and it's like, "Yeah, but we already knew that or guessed that, so not a big deal." And then it's like, "Oh, Omega's force sensitive," and it's like, "Yeah, but we already kind of predicted that in season 1." So it's not really a big deal. And I kind of got like an eyebrow raise out of me. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then I don't know, like all the characters were separate. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't like it was okay. It was kind of like the microcosm of the Bad Batch for me. Like it was okay.
That's fair. No, that you do make a good point. We all know where this is technically going and where it eventually comes to fruition in the Rise of Skywalker.
Oh God, don't remind me.
Its revival. So it's like if we know what the end game is, I kind of want to see. I like the kind of device they're using where we've only seen little glimpses of just what monstrosities they must be brewing up. What are the first trial runs look like? And Tom made a good point that I didn't pick up whilst watching. They're using the donor but blood samples, so like testing Omega and all the other clones, but they're also using a test subject to inject that blood into. So who are these test subjects, and what are these abominations? As Palpatine himself, I feel like they've withheld it long enough and drawn out some of the like mystery surrounding it. Show us. Maybe that's morbid of me to want to see, but we saw those kind of deranged looking Snoke-like figures in the tanks in Mando season 2. Was that season 2? On Navarro. So was it on Navarro? I don't even remember. So it's like, show us a little bit more of that. What kind of monsters do they create before they achieve their final Snoke, I
just don't care. I just don't care about like them making Palpatine make sense. It doesn't matter to me. Like I don't think you can make it good. He should not have come back. And I'm just gonna die on that hill. So like it doesn't matter what you do to explain how he comes back. I just don't like it. Like it's not how he came back that bothers me. It's the fact that he comes back at all that bothers me. Because I don't like how it kind of nullifies Anakin's sacrifice. Like his whole like character arc. Well, not everything, because the whole sacrificing for his son and coming back is still impactful. But I mean, he should have just finished Palpatine off permanently. I don't like that it's just, oh, he bought him 30 years or whatever. Because it's just not as poetic for me.
And it's even the intricacies of like what this all entails almost ultimately doesn't really matter, because like we said in the Rise of Skywalker, what happened lasted for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes and then it's over. So it's like all of this for like what we saw in Rise of Skywalker really doesn't make this mean anything more important than it does. The things that I really like, the things that draw me to the show is like the little intimate moments between the characters rather than the overarching plot of where it's going, right? Like I love the little moments between Crosshair and Omega. I love little Omega. I love like the dark
Batcha.
kind of like I love Batcha. I love the dark little ominous mysterious moments with the music in episode 1. Like it's like that cyberpunk vibe, but like it's, you know, it keeps us kind of uneasy the entire time and wondering what's happening. Even though we know what's happening, it still makes it interesting with, you know, the music and everything else. And but like I said, yeah, like the little tiny details of whose blood is that, or what abominations are they creating? If all of it is involved with Project Necromancer, I don't really care. All the other stuff is what I kind of care about, right? So I'm curious to see what else we get to see aside from, you know, the main overarching theme of where the story's going.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think some of the strongest moments, as you said, Alex, in previous episodes were like Omega and Crosshair, you know, finally back together. And now that it's just the two of them, depending on where this goes from here, whether they land up, you know, their dynamic, that's especially, you know, interesting because Crosshair probably has so much guilt still surrounding, you know, the whole relationship with the Bad Batch and whatnot. So him being not trapped per se, but him having to face that now that he's stuck with Omega. I'm hoping to get more of those because the two of them together, those were some of the best moments. The soul searching for him and whatnot. The blocks he's still putting up. So I'm curious to see what happens if and when they reunite with the rest of the crew. Wait, Zach, I need to hear your. So, Alex, you're full on with the theory that Tech has been transformed into some sort of mutant. I'm
not on board with it, but I can see them probably doing it. Like just based off of how
the dude fell like 6,000 feet. He's freaking mush.
It has not stopped them reviving every other character that's ever died. So at this point, I'm not even going to outrule it.
Returns.
Leaving Tick was my strategy.
Tick is just like a friggin' Sith Lord now.
Oh, that would be so effing sad. But I don't know. It could be. At first, I was thinking I was Delulu for thinking that, and that it was just coming from a place of denial. But now that we know that they're testing anyone and everyone's blood sample, particularly the Bad Batch, who Hemlock has expressed, you know, he sees them as a formidable challenge. You know, they're assets to him. If they were to know that Tech was, and if they need the specimens alive. That too is a caveat. If they're going to test their blood samples, I feel like they could have exercised some life-saving measures. I don't know.
Does Tech returning ruin like the possibility of an emotional, dramatic death? Because you're like, oh well, what's stopping them from bringing them back in another show or something like that?
It does. You need to leave characters dead.
As much as I love Tech, you know, it's like there's a lot of great characters that die in great shows, but it's part of the immersion, right? Shogun is doing
Speaking
that.
of,
yeah. Did you watch any of that, Kat?
I watched the first episode, and I'm salty that you didn't effing warn me, although I should have known when people were comparing it to Game of Thrones that the violence and gore and horrificness was going to be on the same level. I went in so blind.
It's pretty bad.
I love.
Yeah, Kat's over here acting like it bothers her, but she's secretly like, "Fucking do it, burn him alive." Yes.
Spoilers. I mean, I haven't seen anything like that since Game of Thrones. I don't even know if Game of Thrones executed anything that drastically.
I haven't been this immersed in a show since Game of Thrones.
Since the Bad Batch season 2.
Since Sid came into the picture in Bad Batch, I haven't been this immersed into a show.
I think Alice did say it. This was the best part of the first 3 episodes for me. I was expecting at any moment
fucking Sid wasn't there.
Yeah,
the worst character of all time.
Hey, Muscles, I need you guys to go fetch this doodad for me or whatever. And
he's like, but why should we do that, Sid? Because
you betrayed us, Sid.
But Sid, you betrayed us. And then Hunt is like, hold on now, Omega. Our job's not over yet.
Oh,
we're soldiers, Omega. Hunter, you always say that.
God. Is she going to get what she deserves this season? That's the true test.
Is Omega gonna get what she? Oh,
No,
Sid.
Sid.
Is
Oh,
that fucking kid gonna die?
I was like, are you implying that her naivete is annoying and that she needs to die? I can't.
Is that
I
little
don't even
shit
know.
finally gonna die this season? Cat 2024.
Oh,
God.
okay,
Can't
Kat.
say
Now
right
you can
now.
say what you really want to say.
No, Sid. If they please, Omega's untouchable. Although I am curious if they'll address this or leave this off somehow, unless it ends with all of them retiring on Pabu. Pabu.
Papa.
Zach, how do you do it so epic perfectly? Unless they all retire on Pabu.
There
And
it
just
is.
never see the rest of the galaxy ever again and live out their lives in peace. I'm
With
curious.
Mochi and Batcha.
Betcha! Look at you!
Mochi.
Gosh, I am gonna miss her freaking accent. Gosh, I keep forgetting it's the final season. So it's like, are they gonna address how they're all absent, going forward in the future? Do they need to address it? I don't know, but things could no! Even Omega, they wouldn't.
Especially Omega.
Are
Dying is my strategy.
Are you for real?
Getting
Being
wrecked.
a sacrificial lamb like Cat Lasada is my strategy.
Getting wrecked is my strategy.
They don't call me Rekka for nothing.
He just snaps her neck.
Oh my god.
I will say this. I did really like. I don't think this is in this episode, but I did really like the scene where Crosshair is like.
Oh my god. Mochi, what are you doing?
Oh my god.
Mochi and Batcha team up and they just eat Omega, and that's how it.
Oh my god, it's way too late right now for me. I can't handle this.
That just triggered nightmare fuel for me.
I'm
Sweet
getting
Lord.
punch drunk. Speaking of nightmare fuel, Kat, remember the face stealer in Avatar?
Hey, spoilers! Our poor friend over here ain't got enough.
I've seen the original show.
He knows who Ko is. But like,
yeah, but he doesn't know what they include or leave out. But continue.
We're not going into detail. I'm just saying it was like the weirdest shit ever, and I'm curious what you thought about. Like, did you like it or did you not like it? This is just a quick segue, and then we'll get right back.
Ko's inclusion
out of all CGI, and this specific, I think most of the time they did the CGI right and they did the creatures right. But did you like what they did with Ko? Because I'm seeing a lot of mixed kind of reactions on it.
Yeah, it seemed to look like its own thing. All the other animals and creatures definitely had a specific style, but Ko was something almost different, whether that was intentional or not. It still was great to see in live action. Still creepy as heck. Still definitely elevated it. I would have liked to see more faces. It only showed 2 versus I think in the actual animated version he flashed through like a bunch more of the identities and faces and victims. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I was like, yes, that's like the craziest part. And then they stopped at like 2. So I was like, oh.
He's able to feed on like the fear and reflect the fear of who they fear of losing and all that stuff. Yeah, it was really interesting. And I always found the animations for the creatures in Avatar were always so spooky and well done and like mysterious and different. Kind of like something out of like what's his name? The Miyazaki, like the Miyazaki stuff is so abstract and so weird, like Spirited Away and all that. It always gave me
see that. I'm a
You haven't seen any of those?
Humanity, because I've never seen that. I want to film a reaction to it because it's like
Howl's Moving Castle. No, you haven't seen any of those.
I've never seen that one. That's the only one I've seen.
But Spirited
those
Away,
are good. Like I don't like anime very much, but I really like his stuff. Like they have like really abstract and very strange, very weird. And I like weird shit.
The Boy and the Heron just won a ton of awards, right? Or it's been nominated.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one, but yeah, I hear it's good. Anyway, okay, back to Star Wars. I mean, as much as I don't even want to talk about Project Necromancer, I brought up like, so are they making Snoke? And then Zach said something like Snoke is a failed Palpatine clone or something like that.
Isn't
That's
he?
what you said, right? Is that what is that what he is?
I
Or
don't
is he?
know. It wasn't very. I'm sure there's an answer from like books and stuff that I haven't read, but I took it as like a failed Palpatine clone, and then they just kind of rolled with it. Because let's be honest, they didn't plan this. They didn't plan Snoke to be controlled by Palpatine. That was kind of something they improvised. So I don't know exactly what the whole deal
Yeah,
is
like
with
all of
that.
his scarring and all of that.
Yeah,
Like,
I
what
think
is
they
all of
just
that?
I
Yeah,
think they just wanted to make like a creepy looking villain, and then in
and then he
episode
got
9,
spliced up in a machine and became all weird looking.
yeah, and then in episode 9 they're like, the Palpatine controlled Snoke. It was the plan all along.
They're like, we forgot how to write, so let's just throw Palpatine in as our scapegoat. Palpatine did it. He's always been pulling the strings. Ha! See, we have been thinking about this in advance. Got you guys.
Dark side
Boom.
sorcery that only
Dark
the
side
Sith
magic.
knew.
It's magic. He's alive because of magic. It's cool and stuff.
And then he's back for 15 minutes and then dies.
Yeah, you'd think he would have learned his lesson by this point to not die quickly by his hubris, you know?
I seriously hate that trope in storytelling where like the whole plot of a movie or a book or a show is like, we need to stop this villain from coming back or being resurrected, and then the villain gets resurrected and then they kill him in like 10 minutes and then it's over. It's like, wow, so that wasn't, you didn't really have to be that scared of that guy, did you? You got him in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That's fair. Granted, I think Palpatine in The Rise of Skywalker never intimidated me as much because he was still just a shell of the Palpatine we knew. You know, he was hooked up to all those cords. Like he was literally on like life support.
I could have taken him.
Yeah, right. Like he was definitely not the same in any way, shape, or form. You know, I think I was more just creeped out and curious about him and how he was still going, but still very ghostly. Not even like a real, I don't know. He never intimidated me the way like Revenge of the Sith or any of, original trilogy Palpatine. He's very much different. I wouldn't be surprised though, after, if he did have some failed clone products, but they actually were somewhat viable, and he was like, hey, let's train this one. I don't know. That's what I always wanted to know more of. What's the backstory with Snoke and Kylo Ren? Because Snoke was like his master, no? Well, dark side master, but
Yeah. When do you guys
I mean,
think that Palpatine? Because like something Kat said made me think about this. When do you think Palpatine is the scariest? Like, what portrayal of him do you think is the
Ooh.
scariest?
Oh,
Because I think I have a hot take on mine.
what portrayal? Like,
Yeah,
what
which
like
medium?
version of him?
yeah, like when is like his appearance? Like what appearance of his is?
Oh, I
Ooh,
find
let me
him in the
think.
animation to be the scariest.
That's what
But
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I think Clone Wars and Rebels, he was kind of scary.
I
Oh,
think Return of the Jedi still gets me sometimes.
Yeah,
But yeah, I do agree. Like he is his most darkest, most visceral, most dastardly, and scary in the animation because he can do so much more. You know, he can do so
yeah.
much more with his expressions and with his force powers and like I do feel like animation is the best medium for Star Wars right now. Like they really can make their best content in animation. And I think everything live action they've made has been either subpar or has been good with okay has been okay with some good moments, right? It's never been
Andor
great.
included. Is
Well,
Andor
Andor's
included?
separate. Andor's not even in this conversation. Andor's totally
Okay.
separate. Like Andor's great. Andor doesn't even feel like Star Wars. It's so great. That's
Mm.
and that's why we're having this conversation about it, right? And it strays so far from the Star Wars formula, which is why I'm saying if they are going to do live action, they got to stop with this format that they're doing with Ahsoka, with the Mando, with everything. It's just overdone tropes, bad writing, and annoying action that makes no sense.
Well, that's why I'm really excited for Acolyte. I think I'm also just not that I haven't been enjoying all this content, but the overlap of everything turning into a cycle of infinity, contributing, feeding into one another. The Mandoverse, Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka. Everything's bleeding into the same timeline. It's not that I'm not enjoying the overlap and that it's really fleshing that all out, but I'm just so thirsty for something different. So I'm hoping Acolyte breaks out of not the mold that's been established, but similarly to Andor, it just was fresh, different, out of the box. So I'm like freaking if the alleged release date in June stays true, I'm very, very I hope I have high expectations for Acolyte to be that.
Yeah, the trailer I saw over in London looked great.
Why? It's been almost a year. Freaking drop that to the rest of us, baby. Disney,
I know
if you can hear me,
drop
please.
something.
Why? Like, oh my god.
I think some of it just has to do with trying to save money, because I noticed they didn't start advertising Bad Batch till a month before the show came out, right? And I think that's kind of what they're doing now. Instead of the 6-month long marketing campaign, they're just like, all right, let's push it all into 1 month and throw it in everyone's face for a couple weeks, and then hopefully that drives numbers. Because maybe they were throwing so much at marketing but not making the returns because no one liked the show, and they realized it was a sunken cost. I don't know. I mean, that's all I can think of. If we're gonna get any Acolyte trailers or any promo like a month before, I feel like that's a huge mistake. I feel like we should have already gotten something like a teaser, because for me it didn't look bad. Like it didn't look bad at all.
Let Cat cook.
I saw like the action, the movements, the cinematography. It didn't look bad. I was like, I don't know why they haven't released something unless something else happened. Like everything they showed us was just everything that was good.
It will intrigue if you show that to anyone, even a casual Star Wars fan, and say, yeah, you don't need to watch any of the cartoons, animation. You don't need to watch any of the current Disney Plus shows to understand this. It's good for everybody. Like, I think that would gain the general audience's interest.
It's an everybody show for sure.
Yes.
And if you say it's like, I've noticed a lot of articles saying it's a prequel to Phantom Menace, and people are like, what's Phantom Menace, right? Or what's that? I feel like if something's a prequel to Phantom Menace, I feel like that's, for the most part, that's, if you're a fan, you know what that means. They're like, because there's always arguments about whether or not that's a good title, right? So if a casual is going to see, it's like, what does that mean? What's Phantom Menace? Yes, there is not a celebration this year, but there's a celebration next year, A21 in Japan, that we are all going to try to go.
Yeah. Speaking of Shogun, pre-gaming.
Yeah, I know, we're pre-gaming. We're pre-gaming the Japan trip by watching Shogun. Yeah.
We should all become samurai.
Yeah, we should just wear kimonos the entire time.
Wait, meaning Alice, you think that that the release date, the premiere date is still, based on what I saw, I still don't fully believe it because it seemed very tentative, wishy-washy. It's planning on coming out in June, so don't quote me on that because I didn't even fully believe it when I saw it.
Well, it did say tentative
yes,
June 5th or tentative June 8th, which could mean, oh, it's canceled, we're never going to show it.
No.
That seems to be the theme of everything Star Wars nowadays.
I'm freaking horrified with Warner Brothers and stuff. Every projects finished and ready to be shown to the public, just getting canceled, just getting shelved. Granted, I don't know the inner workings of all that, or if they were fully finished and ready for release or whatnot, but I wouldn't put it past them. I'm just scared. That's the reality of this time period right now with streaming right now.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way they'd shelve Acolyte. I think they'll probably push the release date, if anything. But I don't think they'll shelve it.
Especially
it would have to be
a trailer.
Yeah, it'd have to be terrible for them to they'd have to realize like, oh my god,
I don't think they know what terrible is.
I know, that's why I don't think it'll happen.
So if they think it's terrible, it must be absolutely horrible or amazing. Either way. Either what they think is horrible is amazing, or what's horrible is actually amazing. Wait.
No,
I think that made
leaned
sense.
into it so much at last Celebration. I would be stunned.
Wouldn't be surprised if Skeleton Crew got the hammer.
Yeah,
Listen,
who cares about Skeleton Crew?
that show is never seeing the light of day. This all right. I'm gonna say my
Jude Law
piece.
was there.
But what? Like, okay. I just have to purge this out of my system. We should know effing more about this show. The fact that I consider myself to be a dedicated Star Wars fan, and I could not tell a stranger off the street what the F Skeleton Crew is freaking about.
It's Stranger Things in Space, Cat.
But like, we
Cat
should
saying
know
frick,
more.
guys.
We
She's
should
saying frick.
know. Listen, I've
She's saying
accidentally
frick.
cursed. I've accidentally cursed when saying my piece about Star Wars marketing in the current state. And I don't mean it to be critical. I mean it as I'm begging. I'm begging you. Like, please, I want to help. If anyone from Star Wars marketing is listening, I'm not angry. I just want to talk. I just want
Let
what's
Cat
best.
cook. If anything, Cat.
Use her marketing knowledge. We beg you.
If anything, Cat, wanting to portray criticism isn't you being mean. So I know the Cat scale. I know the Cat scale is 8 through 10. And 1 through 7 is just ignored. But
Yeah, in my honest
sometimes sprinkle in a
opinion,
little 6 or 7
we're
here and there.
gonna
Maybe you'll see what it does to you.
Cat scale gets real when it comes to Star Wars marketing. It is on a 2 out of 10.
Holy shit.
That's how you know. This is like the one thing I will be vocally critical about, because it can be so much better. Like, and Star Wars projects have failed and performed poorly because of this marketing. Things like Solo, which in my opinion was worthy of a much better turnout. But when you drop a trailer a month out, like, that's not helping anyone. And we should know more about freaking Acolyte. I should be able to tell you what the F Skeleton Crew is about. I should not be in a state where I don't think we're going to see the light. That show's going to see the light of day. I should not be thinking right now like that Skeleton Crew is never going to come to fruition. That's my piece. Everybody knows, anyone who follows me and has heard me vent about this knows that this is my biggest gripe in the universe, and I just want them to be better. I'm not trying to be mean. I just want them to be better. Like, whoever was behind the helm during Ahsoka, they stepped it the F up because it was during the strikes and they had no option. So they really had to just be pumping it out because the cast couldn't be uttering a word to promote the show. So they stepped it up then. So it's just like, come on, keep that same energy. Like, keep it. And rant and cook.
Yeah,
Do
but
you smell
okay,
what
John
the
Wick.
cat is cooking?
They don't need to market John Wick because they have 4 other movies. Acolyte is its own thing, So like they need to spread awareness that it's a thing. Otherwise, people are gonna ignore it, right? You could drop a new John Wick movie right now in the theaters, and people be like, "Oh, there's a new one. Let's go!" Right? Because it's the brand. Everyone knows what it is. There's a market already.
They could say that they're done making Star Wars shows and that they're going to go back to theatrical releases only and maybe have just animated shows be running. I'd be okay with that. I kind of liked it when it was the sequels coming out and then Rebels was happening at the same time. I don't want it to become too much like Marvel, where it's like, oh, you got to watch The Mandalorian and then the Book of Boba Fett, and then you got to watch The Mandalorian season 2 and 3, and then you've got to watch Ahsoka, and then you've got to watch.
You got to read this comic that steals from the movie, and
I don't want that to happen.
Art. Yeah,
I just miss Star Wars being on the big screen. I mean, and hopefully, ideally, next time it's on the big screen, it's good, but it doesn't do it justice to be on
TV. It's not made for TV. So. Yeah, unless you have the right people doing it. But I mean,
Andor worked.
Yeah, Andor works, and it was because there was a vision, and there wasn't 14 people in the writers' room. It was just Gilroy and one other person, right? And I think there's something to be said about hiring the right people to do the right things, and not trying to save a buck by having this person be the director, writer, and producer. Because then shit gets scrambled, and there's no one who are masters at their craft doing. Like, you're not gonna have Hans Zimmer be the script supervisor, right? You're gonna have him do. You're gonna have him do what he's best at, is making music, and which, by the way, I'm so hyped for Dune. Like, that's like this like I thought the second half of this month was going to be like the greatest second half of the month ever. And honestly, Avatar let me down.
Did you finish it? You're
Yeah.
totally done. Yeah.
Yeah. Your face, you were like trying not to give anything away, and then the moment I said yeah, you're like, oh yeah.
I didn't know. I knew you were starting to waver midway through after they started diverting a little bit, but that's to be I expected it.
But I mean, yeah. Overall, I think I would love to just have animation be in the foreground because it doesn't piss me off. Unless Sid's in it, it doesn't piss me off, right? Like I don't have Star Wars animation shows aren't pissing me off, and every live action show has been pissing me off. I don't know if it's a me problem or what, but I'm willing to admit it if it's a me problem. But honestly, right now, that's where I stand. Right? It doesn't quite hit where it needs to hit. It's always kind of like a weak kind of approach to what we thought it was going to be. Like it subverts expectations, dare I say it, right? In almost every way that isn't good. And Kat will disagree with me because
they tried really hard, Alex. They worked really hard on.
They worked so hard. Look at all those people that worked on it. God, they all worked so hard. So they're not open to criticism. You're right, Kat. You know what? 8.5 out of 10. Everything's 8.5.
I'm treading carefully because if you rewind to like 3 years ago, before when all of these projects that we now have were in the pipeline, I was out here touting like this is going to be best. This is the best possible thing for Star Wars because it'll never be dormant again, and there'll just be so much content to the point that nobody's going to have criticisms, because if you just don't like one show, just leave it and move on to the next one. But now that it's here and every show is just turned into a fight on Twitter with, people either defending it or doing XYZ, or like several months after a show will come out, the rose-colored glasses come off, and then people get extra critical, and it's like, maybe now I'm starting to think what I thought was the answer is instead just oversaturating us. Like, we're spoiled with so much Star Wars content that we do feel more. We do feel, like, not my opinion, but I respect yours. But my opinion is not. I mean, listen, I'm a simple person. If it's Star Wars, I'm gonna effing watch it. And the things that people, roast, I can't trust myself because I look fondly at like Book of Boba Fett, like I think that's a great show. So I can't be trusted. I freaking liked Aragon, which is allegedly the worst dang movie of all time.
That is a good point.
I can't be trusted.
And at this point, I'm jealous of you because I wish I had that. I wish I had this mindset on these things. And I think maybe if they didn't use such pivotal or front and center characters like Ahsoka or Obi-Wan, my favorite character, and make a subpar show that doesn't quite meet expectations and kind of falls below the mark that you kind of expect it to be, it gets a little annoying, right? I'm not going to sit here and act like it ruins my life because my life isn't Star Wars, right? I like Star Wars. It's fun. We come on here and we talk about it, but I want to come on here and talk and be happy to talk about it rather than trying to tear it down. Because the last thing I want to do is tear it down. Like, I'm sure everyone here knows, like, we're not on here to tear Star Wars down. We're here to unite the fandom and talk, see both sides of the argument and have fun here, right? And just because I don't like something and then Kat disagrees with it, I'm not going to sit here and yell at her and say she's stupid.
No,
right?
That's why we're great, because we have the range of opinions here, but we're proof that we can still be friends. It's
the fact that we're like creatives that also takes away from our enjoyment of it. At least
I think for you guys,
at least for us.
Speaking as the non-film school person in this trio, you guys totally. But I envy it because that's why I'm like, I can't even trust myself because I watch anything and I'm like, that's why I just say, well, they worked hard on it. Like, yes, I've worked at it from the acting perspective, and having been on a few sets before, even just small ones, I recognize that it is a freaking fat, huge team effort. And it's hard to even just put out 15 minutes worth of content, let alone an entire 8-episode series. So like, but you guys, I think, I don't think it's a bad thing. I envy your guys' critical thinking with your education because I feel like I'm not analytical enough to look at something and recognize that it should have been better. I'll just take anything, I'm like, I liked it. I thought it was good. That's why my scale is so curved. Versus
mean,
you guys have actual
there's like
knowledge.
there's a time and place to like respect hard work people put in, right? Like this isn't taking into account that there's hundreds of people who are working very hard on this, right? We're just taking a look at like the finished product, right? And a lot of it doesn't fall on those people, right? It's not a lot of their fault. Like they did their
No.
job, they did what they were supposed to do. A lot of it comes down to the higher ups and the studio execs and the marketing team, etc. There's like a lot of people like up on the totem pole that are responsible for the finished product, right? And whether it's a cash grab or not, it's understanding that we're not stupid and that if we're gonna throw money at a product like Disney Plus, we want to get good products out of it and be happy that we get quality shows that represent Lucas's Star Wars. And even if it strays a little bit from Lucas's Star Wars, that's fine as long as it's good, as long as the quality is there, as long as the writing is good, as long as there's a vision. That's all we really want, right? It's not insane to imagine that you want your favorite IP to include quality storytelling like that of Shogun, like that of Game of Thrones, contrary to a couple of seasons, or let's see what else. Well, what else is a good show? Throw it out there. What else is a good show, Zach? I'm trying to remember.
Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad.
Better
Breaking
Call
Bad's great. Better
Saul.
Call Saul. Like, why can't they hire, like they have all these resources? Why can't they hire people in these realms? Are they rejecting these requests, or do they just want to hire people with no experience because it's cheaper? That's like the real question we need to figure out here. Like, there's no way they're this inept at the hiring process, right? There's no way.
Yeah, my problem is that when you look at a show like Obi-Wan, I know for a fact that I could have written a better show than what we got. Like it's not like it wouldn't even have been that hard. Like they just
And most fans probably could have written a better.
I don't know why they did the things they did with that story. Because it was so obvious what like they could have done, what they should have done. They should have spent more time on Obi-Wan's trauma. I don't really think that Leia should have been involved. They should have come up with a different story. Like there's just so many easy things that they could have done that would have been better to explore the character of Obi-Wan. And it just, I don't want to get into it. We've ranted about Obi-Wan, way too much. But that's just like an example for me, is that like it's such an easy thing to see.
Jaeger puts this perfectly. I enjoy Star Wars in the moment because it's Star Wars, but then I watch something like Shogun and realize we aren't getting what we should be. Yes, exactly. And they're doing it with half the budget of most of these shows too. Like they're creating incredible shows, incredible immersive storytelling, incredible world building with sometimes half the budget than like a lot of the Disney Plus shows or movies, right? And you start to question why that is, right? Is there just too many cooks in the kitchen? You could go on all day, but it really just comes down to if they don't provide a quality product, right? We're gonna talk about it. We're not saying everyone involved sucks. We're not saying Disney sucks. We're not saying all that. We're just critics sitting here demanding answers or wanting it to be as good as it could be.
We want it to be as good as it could be. It has to be the executives. That's the only thing I can think of, because I feel like they handle Star Wars. The difference between something like Shogun and Star Wars is that Star Wars is a massive property that is essentially a product for Disney. It's a product. It's not like Shogun is a creative story that's being told
with passion.
Yes, whereas Star Wars is bigger than that. It's transcended that. It's now like this gigantic monolithic product. Yeah, it's a product. It's just like Coca-Cola now. They just want to figure out what they can do to sell it to the most amount of people possible. And ironically, it would be to make a good story, a compelling story with good characters like Andor. Like that's why people fucking love Andor, is because it's so well thought out. It's so well written. Everything about it is incredible. And they just don't see it. They don't see that that's the ticket to success. Instead, they try to, I don't know, like they try to just, audience likes these things, let's throw those in there. Audience likes these things, let's throw those in there. They don't just let creatives do their thing. And I think that if you let the creatives do their thing, you're going to get better stories. You're going to get better shows, movies, whatever. It's just going to happen. That's what's going to happen.
It's like the people who aren't creatives dictating creative decisions for the creatives after the
Exactly.
creatives did their creative. Like they did their job, and then they sit in there and be like, no, we should just do this because we need to have this product placement there. This is going to offend these people, that and this. It's like, oh, but there's a reason for this. Like there was a reason for example, like there's a reason for Sokka's like sexism and his evolution of who he became. Right. There's a reason why focus on Sokka Katara and Aang's relationship is more important than probably anything else, and you just kind of skipped that. Now it's really, you don't feel the relationship there, right? Like there's like little textual detail like that these execs don't even think about. They just think, okay, how much is this CGI going to cost? How much is that going to cost? Okay, let's cut out this scene to make a scene for this scene because this scene's cool. And it's like, but no, but then the story, it's like, I just feel like it's just too many people dictating creative that aren't creative. That's probably the end result. So I agree.
Yeah, you wouldn't want us walking into like some Wall Street farm and being like, "Oh, let's mess with all these numbers because it looks cool." Or it's like, no, like that would be stupid. Like let the people who, do these things for a living do those things. Like
it's like, so you're telling me if this stock goes up double, we make $450 million. Okay, let's just try this. Let's just go all on this one right here and we'll make this money. Bankrupts the whole firm. It's like, oh shit. Okay, well, I guess we can try again. It's like, no, you idiot. It's just like, it's like these people with these egos thinking that they're better than creatives when they're just not hiring the right people. It's insane.
I think though there's also with Star Wars and especially Avatar, it's number one. It beat out One Piece. It's had like in terms of initial viewership.
I gotta go pee really quick.
Premiere. Sorry. You're good. Did you watch One Piece, Zach? I feel like no, you don't like anime. Never mind.
I watched the live action.
Oh, you did. Okay. Yeah. No, there have been comparisons to the latest Avatar with that, and I'd be curious to watch One Piece now. But I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like a lot of people who hadn't seen the anime watched the live action one.
Yeah, that's me, because there's like there's a A, I don't like anime, and B, there's like a bazillion episodes of One Piece. It's been going on for like 25 years. So I think that a One Piece live action show is more useful than an Avatar live action show, because One Piece is like 1,000 episodes plus of show that.
But then how do you condense that? Like,
I mean, I guess there's a lot of filler, I guess. So you just take the most integral parts, and it sort of acts as like an abridged version of the story for people who aren't going to go watch 1,000 episodes, which is probably 99% of people. Whereas with Avatar, I don't know. Like, I just feel like just watch the original Avatar. Like, this live action show isn't going to really add anything. For the most part, it's not going to be better than the animated show, and it's going to tell the same story. So just watch the definitive animated version, in my mind. But yeah.
But no matter what, there is, same with Star Wars, the pre-existing fan base. No matter what they do, like there's that luxury again with Star Wars as well. Like I just said. Proof. If it has Star Wars slapped on the title, I'll watch it.
It's like they'll make money by having these like mediocre stories just because these products are so established, like Star Wars and Avatar. They'll make their money and they'll think that they're doing a good job. But like, I don't know, like, is there going to come a point where Star Wars just crumbles because people are tired of mediocrity? Or
I think we're on the verge of what Marvel is experiencing with the oversaturation. Every time I see a new Marvel project, the discourse on Twitter that I see is just people like rejection. People just saying we don't want this. Nobody asked for this. Like, I'm not up to date on Marvel. I really dropped off, so I don't fully know. But I feel like that's the case for a lot of the fan base. Just it's overly saturated and it is so self-dependent. It's just it feeds itself, like just this continuous, you have to watch this in order to understand that. It's too self-reliant, and I do feel like Star Wars is maybe treading the line of a similar situation. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so too. Especially when you have like all these shows tying into each other, which we follow it because we watch it all.
Alice.
But
Alice.
I don't know. Like, I don't like, it's not a good feeling to me for some reason. Like, I just don't, I don't know what it is. I need to think about it more, but it just doesn't feel clean, if that makes sense. Like it just feels very muddled and like all over the place. And like I feel like Star Wars needs to be more episodic and bigger, like it used to be. Like you had a neat trilogy of films, and then maybe you had a show running on TV while like those films are releasing to hold fans over. But now it's like, oh, you get this Star Wars show, and then this Star Wars show, which happens. Like, for example, we got like the Book of Boba Fett, which takes place around the time of the Mandalorian, and then we got Obi-Wan, which takes place 20 years before that, and then we get Andor, which takes place, between 3 and 4, and it's just kind of jumping back and forth all over the place. And for the casual fan, it's very hard to keep track of this, like the timeline. I remember I watched like one of them with my grandpa, and he's like, "So when does this happen?" And he just had like no idea because
then you try to explain it. He's like, "What?"
Yeah, and it makes it worse when I try to explain it. Like it's
he tried.
It's just too.
My parents can't even watch like Andor or any of these because they're just like, wait, so isn't the Empire dead? Or where does this take place? When is this? And all and it's like I try to explain it to them. They're like, oh right. And then the next episode comes, and they're like, wait, so when is this taking place? Like it just constantly happens. So it just proves that this like Star Wars is only made for like super fans right now. The way it's the way it's like being constructed and going back and forth between different timelines. It's only for fans.
It's being made for super fans, but it's not like the stories aren't being told like they're for super fans. If you know what I mean, like they're not. They're still kind of basic and trying to reach the casual fan, but the way everything's structured is for like super fans because casual fans aren't going to keep up with like what's happening when and where and what the order is. But yet the stories we're getting, like Obi-Wan is a prime example. Like if that was targeting like hardcore fans, it would have been such a better show. But it wasn't. It was targeting the casual fans because they're like, oh, the casual fans will know who Leia is, and casual fans will know Darth Vader and Obi-Wan, and we'll just kind of like have this basic story about trying to rescue Leia, and then Darth Vader chases Obi-Wan. Where we could have had like this brilliant show about Obi-Wan's trauma and getting over that and tying into like not just the things with Anakin, but with the things with like Satine and all the things he experienced during the Clone Wars. Like, you know what I mean? Like really like dig into it.
Tactical mind, like his key tactical mind of how to do things. Like it was just kind of like he goes from this place to that place and does this, like, and then when they do have a moment of meeting, he's just kind of like, oh, I'm just going to do that and go there.
Yeah.
And then
it's like,
takes out with little Leia. It's like that's not Obi-Wan. Like this is like a kid's show right now. Like this is so weird.
It's like, show me why he survived Order 66. Like, show me how he's been able to make it. And they never really did. I mean, I guess, he was on Tatooine, and who the hell's going to go look on Tatooine? But still, like, even I think of, like, in his appearances in Obi-Wan, in A New Hope, where he's, like, sneaking around the Death Star, and he's using the Force to make a sound so the Stormtroopers go check it out while he slips around and disables the tractor beam. It's like he's a smart dude, and I don't feel like... I think you're right, Alex. We didn't really get that feeling in Obi-Wan. Here we go, talking about Obi-Wan again.
all roads lead
back.
Because it was like it's the best fucking character, man. And all eyes were on that show. So many people.
We were so hyped for that show. Do you remember
the energy? Stop. It was palpable. It was.
Kat was. We were making jokes about Kat like having to watch it in the
being
hospital.
hospitalized.
And then getting grilled by Howard Stern.
I re-listened to that the other day. Whenever I need to humble myself, if I'm critiquing my own content, I'm like, I need to listen to Howard's words, and it gives me a boost. But shiz, what was I gonna say? No, I always go back to Zach when you said the best thing ever that I like just can't stop fixating on. Like, I think Star Wars is ready for other stories that won't necessarily. I think Star Wars performs well, particularly in recent history here, when you bring in new characters versus, fixating on old ones, because there's more room to disappoint people with their handling.
Yeah.
And you said it perfectly, Zach. Like, show us a story where give the writers the prompt that nobody lives on Coruscant anymore. Like, tell me that. Just do anything. I'll freaking watch anything Star Wars, even if it's 50,000 years in the future. I don't give a flying
The
frick.
great part about that is like you don't even have to explain initially why nobody lives on Coruscant. Like if you just trickle that in there, people will be like, "Wait, what? Like why?" And then you don't answer it for like a season or two, and that will just be building, and you can keep making references to it, and people will be like, "What the hell happened on Coruscant?" Like, and it's just this mystery that's running, even if it's not the main focus of your show. And that's like
this fake show. I'm getting so hype over it. Whenever I effing think about it, I'm like, Zach freaking ruined my brain because that's all I can think about.
I'm sorry.
But like that's it. It's like the simplest thing. Maybe we have to, again, I keep saying I'll watch Star Wars anything, and I know that there is such a pressure to have, Kenobi. That when that trailer dropped, it did probably, I'm sure, lure in, a lot of the general audience who hadn't been keeping up with the Disney Plus shows up until that point. I'm sure Disney Plus subscriptions spiked because it definitely does, yes, appeal to the larger audience who only goes to see the movies, and that is perfectly fine.
Well, of course it spiked. I mean, everyone, their mother was going to go watch it because it was Obi-Wan, right? Regardless if the show was good or not, they can still claim it as the #1 streaming. It's like, of course it's #1 because you use the biggest name in one of the biggest names in Star Wars, right?
2 of them.
And
I'd argue the
that
2.
that always pisses me off too, because like they can say, "Oh, well, it's a success." Then it's like, no, it's a success because you used the name to pat yourself on the back for creating a show. Whereas if you were to create a show just like that with the same quality without Obi-Wan or with a character that's lesser known, there's no way you pull those numbers. Like you're only pulling it because of the name you're pulling it from, right? And it's like it always gets me too.
I know. Ewan and Hayden deserved a better show than that. I mean, I'll always appreciate the show just because it got them back into the fold, and I feel like it was a vehicle to let them know how much we appreciate them. But goddamn, they just deserve so much better. Like they deserve the best writing that money could buy. They deserved not the volume on every freaking scene, like Jaeger here says, or the back lot of Disney at midnight for their little.
How did we go
duels.
from the volume was this incredible revolutionary thing in Mandalorian season 1? That was like my first introduction to the volume, unless it was being used unbeknownst to me in other productions. But Mando season 1, I feel like really put it on the map, and that show looks visually incredible to me. Like I don't think there's anything about Mando season 1 that I didn't like visually, but now it feels like everyone and their mother is using the volume, and now I can just see it everywhere versus it was invisible before. Is it just because
I feel like they're just misusing it? I feel like it worked great when there's moving shots because that was the whole allure of it. It was able to replicate like a video game engine and create the world that the camera pans in, right? So it's almost like you're there. But when you have still shots or when you have daylight shots with still shots, or if you have, for example, a campfire scene like in Rebel Moon, where you can obviously see that it's a backlot studio with the volume behind them. Like
it looks flat.
It just looked flat, awful. You can see the shadows and the weird coloration between the characters in the foreground and the background that never matched, right? It has to be for the most part, it has to be in dark environments, and it has to be with moving shots. Anytime it strays from that, you notice it, right? Whether you like it or not, you notice it, right? And it was a big problem in Avatar too.
I still think the best use of the volume I've seen is the Ahsoka episode in The Mandalorian, because you have like they were able to put trees on the set, and then like it was all like hazy and atmospheric, and it kind of covered up the flatness.
I forget that even was the volume, because that does feel like a set. And it's just so funny. I reflect on when the counterpoint to that, when we got the Boba Fett episode of Mandalorian, and everyone kind of was like, this looked visually strange. And it was just like, because they shot on camera. They shot in Joshua Tree, probably on camera, on location. They shot on like in the real world. And it just
we're going to see like a live action full shot on location. We're like, dude, they used the volume. This shit sucks. Like the volume is not even
this looks
used.
Wrong.
This looks so wrong. It looks awful. I hate this. But yeah, I mean, I think if you do have something in the foreground, I know it's about to come up. If you do have something in the foreground with the volume 2, it does fix that kind of like weird lack of reality thing too. I do agree with that.
What's the dealio? Are we watching here live, or are you tapped
No,
out?
no,
after last
no.
week, Alex?
We're gonna do the. Do you want to do the recording again, Kat,
I'm
separately?
totally down. Yeah, if you're up
Okay.
for it, sweet.
I probably won't get to the editing, but it'll probably end up on your channel. So we'll probably do
Sounds
that.
Gucci. Sounds Gucci.
And to answer your question, 21, I don't know what light you're referring to. If it's the blue light, it's just the LED stuff that you can get. If it's the light reflecting on the plaque, it's just a garden light. It's nothing special.
I think
But,
it means
yeah.
the one with your name on it or something. I don't know. One of the that one right there, the AD. That's what he's talking about.
Oh, your logo.
Yeah, the logo.
And does it have your subscriber count on it? Your
I
live?
had the subscriber counts above it. There's another one over there, but that's just like a logo. It was like a crowdfunding thing.
Oh,
It
nice.
was like something I got early in there, and it was like a whatever it's called, and I got one as a result of it. I forgot I even paid for it. This was like 4 or 5 years ago, and then I got it 4 or 5 years after I paid for it. I didn't even realize I paid for it. And I got it. I was like, oh, that's cool. So always fun.
Nice.
They could have just taken my money and run, but they didn't. So that was nice.
Nice.
But yeah, okay. So with that, we are going to go watch it separately, and pre-record it, and then we are going to edit a little kind of video around our reactions to the episode. Whether it's filler or not, we will find out. But until then,
Come on. I don't think it will be.
Get ready for the Sid episode, everybody.
It's Sid time, baby.
Let's go, Sid.